Somewhere far beyond the shimmering edge of our solar system, in a place so remote that sunlight takes more than 16 hours to arrive, a lone spacecraft drifts silently through the darkness. This is Voyager 1, humanity's most distant ambassador. A metal messenger launched more than 4 decades ago, still carrying with it the echoes of a civilization that dared to explore. It was never meant to come this far. When NASA engineers first designed Voyager 1 in the 1970s, the mission's primary goal was relatively modest: conduct a grand tour of Jupiter and Saturn, study their moons, rings, and magnetic fields, and send the data back to Earth. The spacecraft was built with technology that, by modern standards, seems almost impossibly primitive. Its onboard computers have less memory than the storage needed for a single image on a modern smartphone. And yet, that simple, robust technology has carried it into an entirely new realm: interstellar space. After completing its planetary encounters, Voyager 1 didn't stop. Year after year, it pushed farther into the cosmic night, crossing the heliopause in 2012, the invisible boundary where the sun's influence gives way to the interstellar medium. It now travels through a place no other spacecraft has entered, where the particles, fields, and radiation are not shaped by our star, but by the vast, ancient forces of the galaxy itself. For most of its journey, Voyager 1 has been a silent worker, sending back streams of data, measurements of cosmic rays, magnetic field strength, plasma density. Every so often, NASA would release a small update, a confirmation that it was still functioning, still exploring. But recently, something happened that broke that quiet routine. It began with an unusual transmission, a packet of data that didn't match anything in Voyager's usual reports. At first, the signal looked like noise, a jumbled mess of binary ones and zeros. But when engineers at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory examined it closely, they realized it wasn't random at all. The pattern was deliberate, structured, and it was coming from Voyager 1. This made no sense. The spacecraft's systems were designed to transmit very specific formats of data, nothing more. Every byte had a defined purpose. Yet here was a stream that didn't fit any known template, as if Voyager had decided to send something else. The team began decoding. They converted the binary into visual form, plotting it on a grid. Slowly, a set of intricate shapes emerged: symmetrical patterns, looping arcs, and interlocking angles. Some compared them to ancient glyphs, others to the geometry of snowflakes or crop circles. Whatever they were, they didn't match any known language or telemetry code. The first question everyone asked was simple: could this be a glitch? Spacecraft electronics are vulnerable to cosmic radiation, which can flip bits in memory and produce strange results. But tests showed that Voyager's systems were otherwise healthy. The signal wasn't a corrupted accident, it was intentional. And then came the second question, the one that made even veteran scientists uneasy. If Voyager 1 didn't have the programming to create these shapes on its own, then where did they come from? Some proposed a startling possibility. Perhaps Voyager had encountered something out there, a region of space, a strange magnetic phenomenon, or even a structure that had altered its transmission. After all, in interstellar space, the unknown vastly outweighs the known. Others suggested that perhaps the patterns were a form of data compression, a way to store information in a visual code. Could it be a new discovery that Voyager's instruments had recorded, something so unusual that the spacecraft's basic software couldn't describe it in normal numbers? Still others, mostly outside NASA, began whispering about even stranger ideas. If Voyager 1 had crossed paths with an extraterrestrial probe or signal, what better relay could they find than a human-built spacecraft already talking to Earth? The concept was pure speculation, but it spread quickly, because the patterns looked designed. In press conferences, NASA remained cautious. Officials confirmed the unusual transmission but avoided any claims about its origin. They pointed out that Voyager was aging, that hardware quirks were inevitable. Yet behind the scenes, engineers were running simulations, testing every possible cause, and searching through the last months of data for clues. The deeper they looked, the stranger it became. The patterns weren't static, they were evolving. Each time Voyager sent a new burst, the designs were slightly different, as if progressing through a sequence. When the changes were plotted over time, they formed what looked like a spiraling path. One researcher remarked privately that it almost resembled a map. Meanwhile, the sheer improbability of Voyager still functioning at all added to the mystery. The spacecraft runs on a radioisotope thermoelectric generator, essentially a nuclear battery, which has been slowly losing power since launch. Most of its instruments have already been shut down to conserve energy, and the transmitters work with only about 23 watts of power, less than a typical refrigerator light bulb. And yet, across more than 15 billion miles, that faint signal was still reaching Earth with uncanny clarity. Some scientists began to wonder if what we were seeing wasn't just a message but an invitation. If the patterns truly represented coordinates, then perhaps they pointed toward a location in interstellar space that Voyager was approaching or had already passed. The public reaction was electric. Space forums lit up with theories. Could Voyager have stumbled upon a derelict alien craft? A naturally occurring interstellar object, like Oumuamua, but far older and more massive? Or perhaps an energy-based life form, something utterly unlike biology as we know it, using electromagnetic fields to communicate? NASA tried to temper expectations, emphasizing that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. But they didn't deny that the patterns were unprecedented. And then came the most unsettling twist. After weeks of transmitting the evolving shapes, Voyager sent one final image, a compressed data block that, when decoded, revealed something shockingly familiar. It was a circle. Inside it, etched in fine detail, was a series of radial lines. In the center, a dot. To anyone versed in astronomy, the resemblance was immediate. It looked like the Pioneer-Plax map of the Sun's location relative to nearby pulsars. The very map we had placed on both Pioneer and Voyager to tell any finders where Earth is. But this one was different. In our version, the Sun is the starting point. In Voyager's new pattern, the dot in the center wasn't the Sun. It was something else. If the pattern was indeed a map, then it wasn't pointing to us, it was pointing away from us. Somewhere out there, across the void, another location was marked. And it seemed to suggest that Voyager should keep going. That's when people began to realize the most unnerving possibility of all. Maybe Voyager wasn't just drifting anymore. Maybe it was being guided. We may never know for certain. The spacecraft's power supply is dwindling, and within a few short years, it will go silent forever. But until then, every signal, every byte, will be studied, dissected, and debated. Perhaps the patterns are just a quirk of old hardware. Perhaps they're the signature of an unknown interstellar phenomenon. Or perhaps, just perhaps, they are proof that we are not alone, and that someone, somewhere, decided to answer the call we sent into the dark all those years ago. For now, Voyager 1 sails onward, carrying our golden record, a time capsule of sounds and images from Earth, deeper into the night. And as it does, we wait, ears open to the faint whisper of its transmissions, wondering if the next one will finally reveal the truth. Because if what Voyager found is real, then our story as a species has just taken a turn into the cosmic unknown.